Hi everyone, I'm Lindy Witten. Welcome to the studio. I'm actually in the sewing room today because it's very cold out in my studio. But today we're going to be looking at mixing colours on the paper, and that's because one of my lovely viewers asked could we have a video on how to mix pastel colours on the paper. I hope this is what she had in mind. Anyway, let's get into it. And if you wait through to the end, I've got a couple of books I can recommend to you. So let's get going. Here I've got two pieces of paper. I've got a cream one on one side and a more red one on the other. And we're going to be mixing some secondary colours here. So this is good if you've got a limited set. So we just want two primaries. In this case, I've got red and yellow, and I'm going to make an orange. So if you've got a limited set with not many oranges, you can make your own. I've got on the left-hand side, I've got some warm reds and yellows, on the other a cool red and yellow, so that we can see the difference between them. And of course the background colour of the paper makes a difference. Let's start on the cream. I'm just going to put on, not too thickly, some of the warm red, and here next to it some of the cooler red. And that's, you can see I'm using it on the honeycomb side of this My Tense paper. Next comes some of the yellow, just lightly scumbling it over the top, just light pressure, the same over here. And you can already see the difference in those two oranges, those two secondary colours I'm mixing. That one's cooler, not as vivid. Here I'm going to layer it again. So you can keep layering until you get the effect that you're after. Here I'm just layering up again with the red and the yellow. Just keep doing that until you've filled as much of the tooth of the paper as you want to, and it's got a much coverage. The more red I add, the more red-orange it will be. The more yellow I add, the more yellow-orange it will be. So just keep layering in like that. If I'd done this on the smoother side, it would be different as well. So the colour of the paper will influence it, but also the texture of the paper. So remembering that when you're mixing colours by layering pastels. So now we've got the warm orange on one side and the cooler orange on the other. I can also do this by just cross-hatching. So I'll just take the sticks, the hard sticks, and layer them on top of each other by cross-hatching. And you can do this in a hatching kind of way, or you can do them all in the same direction. It depends what effect you want. And here you just get that optical mixing of the colours. So I've got an orange, but you can still see the reds, and you can still see the yellows as well. Here I am doing it with the cooler colours over on this side of the paper. And you need to put in quite a few layers depending on how much mixing you want. It's going back to red again, so I need more yellow, and we'll just keep hatching away like this. This is great for all sorts of things, texture on rocks or on fabric. I also like to use it in just one direction, so a diagonal direction maybe for skies, layering up the colours in skies, or even just horizontal. Now I'm just going to do some stippling. So just little dabs and dots of the colour, and then the second colour goes on, and as they interact they create that secondary colour, the orange colour. So again, just as many layers as you need, and this is like really pointillism effect, where you're using the little colours next to each other to optically mix together on the paper. I can do a little bit of finger blending too. So just take the side of your finger. It could be a paper tortillon, or it could be a piece of foam packaging, whatever you prefer to blend with, and just give it a little blend, and you can see how different that becomes. And then I can add back a little bit of the sparkle so that it's not a uniform colour by putting more layers on. The advantage of the blending on this paper is that you're going to cover up all those little dimples of the paper colour. Here I'm just going to show you what it looks like if I do the same warm colours on this red paper. And you can see I'm still getting orange, but because of the difference between the paper, they look different. They've got a different sort of intensity, relative intensity, because of the paper colour that you're using. that paper colour will contribute to the orange because it's red, and red is part of what makes orange. But you can see what happens when I use the cooler one with the red background. It just becomes a much cooler yellow than it is on the cream paper, because the cream paper has quite a lot of warmth in it as well. And the difference between the colours on the cream and on the red become obvious when you put them side by side. So think about that when you're doing it. What paper colour am I going to use? How will the colours look on it? Here I'm going for another secondary colour of violet. Often sets don't have enough violet in it, so here I'm just layering a blue and a red to get a violet sort of colour. If I were to do it on the cream, you can see how much darker it looks on the cream than it does on the red, because the red's got a darker value. So I can run that across and make one end of it a bit more red violet and the other end a little more blue violet. Right, so the other thing that's often lacking in sets when you first start out and haven't got a lot of pastels are dark colours. So here I'm just going to show you how to create a darker colour. So take your black and as dark a colour as you have in the one you want to make darker. So here I've got a mid sort of green and I'm layering the black over it. I don't use black a lot, but this is a really good way to extend your set of darks. Just keep layering them until you get the value that you want in the colour that you want. So I can add more black in or more green. And here they look different if you layer firstly with the colour and then with the black, or vice versa. So play with these on a scrap piece of paper to see which way you prefer. Do you prefer it with the black first as the undercolour, or with the colour as the undercolour? Just keep playing with them, and that's the way to find out how your colours will mix. Very good way to get sort of darker, blacker versions of a colour in your set when you don't have that dark value. You can use charcoal as well for this, as it's a black in place of a black pastel. Right, so now we've got a colour out of our set, and we just want to modify that colour. So we'll take, in this case, a purpley sort of colour, and I want to change that. I only have that one purple in my set, perhaps. So I'm going to take blue, which is part of the purple, and I'm going to add some more blue into it, so I get a more blue violet colour. And then, as you can imagine, I'm going to take red, which is the other part of purple, and I'm going to add that to my purple, so I get a more red violet colour. So that's a way that you can extend your existing pastels, by mixing on the paper to modify one colour and give it a few more options, cooler value of it, cooler shade of it, or a warmer shade of it, and darker or lighter. So modifying the existing sticks that you have is a really good way to extend your set of pastels and to mix on the paper. So there I made the violet plus red and the blue plus violet to just make those colours a little bit more different than the one colour that I had in the set. Of course, you can do the same thing, mix them by doing the hatching or the stippling. Lots of different ways to mix colour on the paper. Now, that was not a sanded paper. This is a sanded paper. So you will find that that gives you a slightly different mix. Here I'm taking a dark colour there, in this case a blue. And you can see already that it fills up more of the tooth. And now I'm adding a red to it to get a very dark colour. And now I'm adding a yellow, an ochre colour. So what I'm looking to do here is to create a brown version, which you get by mixing the three primary colours together in various proportions. Over here, I'm going to mix two colours together, in this case a dark blue and then a sienna, and that will give me a rich dark that will approach black. So we're trying to approximate black, but it will be much more lively. So when I've mixed those, it's a rich dark colour you've got rather than a flat black. So the two dark blue and an earthy sienna will give you a black, and then the three primary colours, so a red, a yellow and a blue mixed together will give you something approaching a brown. And if you look at the brown as opposed, a straight brown stick of pastel as opposed to the mixed one, I'm just going to pop that up there for you, you will see how the other brown, the mixed brown, is much richer and more interesting. And I can push it more towards brown by adding more red and yellow than blue. Now I'm just taking and mixing some greens. So I've got a blue, and then I've got an ochre yellow. So that's kind of an Australian green I'm heading for there, something that you might use on, say, eucalyptus trees. And here's a very different green. This is a cool blue and a cool yellow, and that's more of a spring kind of lemony, limey green, which I might use on sort of deciduous trees or new growth in spring. So you can just take any blues and any yellows and mix them together in various proportions to come up with a whole range of greens if you've got a limited number of greens. And I actually prefer that to making my own, to taking a stick of green out. Okay, so let's see how the paper colour affects the mixed colour. Here is the orange that I made earlier, the same red I used and the same yellow. And we're looking at how it appears on there. It appears very intense on there. And that's because it's that thing of what it's sitting next to. It's sitting next to a green, which is complementary. So it pops a bit more than on white. So another way you can mix is by putting on your colour and then using a hard pastel to blend it. So hard pastels over soft pastels will really help to mix those colours up and blend them. And you can see here I've taken a deep, dark sort of red and added white. So I'm going right through into some pale pinks just by blending it out. And it's a little bit like blending with oil paints or acrylics. But if you want a bright light red, don't add white. You're only going to get a pink. Okay, so I'm going to show you now how to apply it in a very small painting. It's just a couple of pairs. I'm going to do a little outline for you. And this is hard pastels on My Tense paper. And then I'm going to start in with some soft pastels. I'm missing the hard pastels there and just going for the soft pastels straight away. So I'll apply some reds in the inside of those pairs, not being too fussy about it, and then I'm going to add in some yellow so that I'm going to get a nice gradation between the reds and the yellows to create some oranges, mix some oranges as well. And I can just pop those wherever I want them in the pear shapes. I can use the edge of the pastel to make some little crisper edges around some areas of the pear, and I'll have some yellow only, some red only, and then the mix where they blend together. I'm going to take a little bit of a blue to make some purple now, so I'm going to add that into the base to get some shadows under the pears and that little, I want to say hole, it's not a hole, the little nubby bit at the bottom of the pear there. And I'm just going to mix some of that blue in with the yellow as well, so I get a bit of green as well. So you can see I've just got those three colours there. A little bit of finger blending as well, and those three colours start to mix on the paper to create a whole range of colours that describe the form of the pear. You can see that the blue of the paper is playing some part in this as well as it peeks through the colours that I've laid down. And of course the blue peeking through the yellow will give you a kind of sense of a greenish tinge, and the blue peeking through behind the red will give you a little bit of a push towards a mauvey, purpley tinge. I'm just going in, adding in a little bit more with a lighter yellow now, just to add some highlights, and again that will mix with the colours underneath it. So mixing pastels on the paper is just a product of layering them, but giving some thought to what your colour you're putting over what other colour, and what colour that is going to push it towards, what colour family that will push it towards. Here I'm just going back in with some of the colours I already had and adding a little bit some more, adding some more blue for some shadow areas, getting a little bit of green into that pear as well by adding the blue. A little bit of finger blending to smooth out some of the areas. This, by the way, is not meant to be a fabulous painting. It's just to demonstrate some of the techniques I was talking about. Popping on the little stems, and I could stop there, or I could go ahead and pop in a bit of background. So here I'm just taking an aqua sort of colour, and I've chosen that because it's a greeny blue, and the blue will sort of blue part of it will contrast nicely with the yellows in the pears and also the oranges. And I'm just scribbling on a little bit of a warm colour now, so I've got cools and warms in the background there. You can put that on anyway. You can scribble it on to mix it up with the blue, or you can lay it with the side, whatever appeals to you. Here I'm scribbling on the yellow ochre sienna, and then I'm running over it with the side of the aqua colour, and you can see how then I start to get a mixed background there. I can just do that all the way through the background, and I can let as much of that paper colour show through as I think will work. And here I'm adding in a deep reddy sort of colour over it, maroony burgundy colour, to create some layers in the background, some interest, so that the bottom of the pears kind of blend in a bit there and you get some lost edges. And again, this is not a masterpiece for painting. It's just to have a look at how you can mix the colours. I'm going to add in this little bit of purple over the top of it now. I had kept it to the primary colours for the pears, but now in the background I'm just going in for some secondaries there, that aqua greeny blue and the purple, just to give some difference in the background. And again, mixing by just running the hard pastel, the side of the hard pastel, right over the top of that burgundy sort of colour. It's hard to look you straight in the eye, folks, because I'm trying to watch the video on one side of my screen and do the voiceover on the other, so it becomes a little bit difficult to do. Here I am adding a little bit more of that warm colour into the background there, and a little bit more of the blue, just so I've got a nice contrast. I'm going to put a little line through there. And there I have just a little bit more shadow going in, a few finishing touches, and there are two pears just showing you how you can mix it up with a few colours. So even if you don't have a big set of pastels, mixing your pastels on the paper will give you a much broader range of colours that you can use in your paintings. I hope that's been helpful. What I wanted to show you was a couple of books. This one is called Pastel Painter's Pocket Palette, and that's a big mouthful, isn't it? It's a really great little book if you've got a limited set of pastels. It's it's quite an old edition now. I don't know, can't remember how old, 2006 or something. But it goes through and shows you all the different ways that you can mix colours to create a whole palette of colours. So the whole book is full of examples of what you can mix and different background colours of paper as well. So that's really handy if you want an idea. So I'll pop that down in the comments below. Another one is an older book, is the Pastel Artist Bible, and it also has a section in there on mixing colours. And this one talks about mixing your secondary colours, mixing tertiary colours, darker values, lighter values, and so on. So both good books if you want to know more about which colours mixed together will give you what colours. But I hope you enjoyed that video on how to mix pastel colours on the paper. Remember that it depends on the colour paper you're mixing on and whether it's got a lot of texture or not, and the different ways you mix by either layering or cross-hatching or stippling. They're all going to give you different results for the way the final colour that you mixed looks. And the best way to get across what your limited set of pastels are going to give you in terms of colour is to do some colour swatches. So get out that paper, rule yourself up some little squares, and then choose some pastels. So you might start with darks and say, I don't have enough darks, so grab a
a black and the darkest value you've got of each of your colours, and mix up some darker values in those little swatches. Then you might say, I don't have enough greens. So take out all your blues and your yellows and start mixing those to create some green and blue swatches. It'll just help you understand what you can get from your set. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the viewer who requested a little video on colour mixing on the paper. And please let me know down in the comments what you would like me to talk about. Sometimes I'm so busy, I think, I don't know what to talk about, what they would like to know about. So if you've got a suggestion, please leave it downstairs in the comments. It really helps me too if you can make a comment, can like, and subscribe if you'd enjoy watching some more of these videos. Happy to talk to you and look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.